Moving on. Michael David Ponting. The Truth, Part 3. The Normal Years.
I believe in miracles. Where you from? You sexy thing, you. I believe in miracles. Since you came along, you sexy thing.
Words are flowing out like endless rain into a paper cup. They slither wildly as they slip away across the
Up to now, a lot of my recordings have been scripted. I write it all out and then I read it out, and so it sounds as though I'm a bit like a computer. So I thought I'd have a go at freestyling, and that's just letting it happen. I always get concerned about how many ums and ahs are going to be in, but you're going to have to put up with those.
Oh, don't you worry about that, Michael. Freestyle is very good. It's a bit like skating. You know, the freestyler, you can sometimes end up on your backside. Just don't worry about it. Oh, sugar, I nearly said bum. It could have been worse, Jimmy. You could have said arse.
Nothing's gonna change my world.
Let's talk about memory jogging. Different situations and different people tend to light up your memory. And writing my life story along with the help from my brother has thrown up quite a few instances of this. So on that basis, I don't really want to have to go back over old ground and rejig things and sort them out. So for this purpose, I will call these types of memories flashbacks. Having moved to Oakham just after the moon landings in 1969, with my life in a little bit of disarray, I seem to have completely missed the Woodstock Festival. Obviously, many years later, I would discover it and really get to understand the part it played in youth culture. Susan Janet Rhodes had lived with her parents at number 51 Parkside, whilst I was back with my mum at 26 Parkside. We met whilst both working for Bishop's Food Stores in West Byfleet. Our relationship was cemented on Christmas Eve 1970 as we were babysitting for a couple we knew. Unfortunately, lust and passion overtook a sense of responsibility on that night.
You always were gifted, Michael.
In the spring of 1971, Sue and I rented the top floor of a house in Grange Road, Newhall. The family of four lived in the downstairs part, and they were called the Bones. On occasion, they would like to go out for a drink and asked us whether we would babysit their two children. This we happily did, except on one occasion, the boy came running up the stairs and he was choking. His sister said, "He swallowed a coin." This was way before I had ever heard of the Heimlich manoeuvre. My natural reaction was just to grab hold of him, turn him upside down, whack him on the back as hard as I could. And believe it or not, the coin dropped out. I was amazed. Obviously, I was relieved. Didn't babysit after that.
I hear your heart beating everywhere I go. People say that I must be in love.
1971, Decimal Currency Day. What a day that was. It really was such a day. We were getting rid of all the good old money, and in was coming the weirdo new money. Now for our generation then, we were in our 20s, everything was great. We had no problem adapting to that. It was easy peasy. But for the older generation, bit of a nightmare. They had great difficulty in understanding the concept. It'd be rather like today For us, as we are now in our 70s, the government's saying that as from Monday week, everybody in the country has got to speak Esperanto. Oh dear.
See, Michael, it was easier for me because I only had 10 fingers.
And it's a thumbs up from me. On September the 21st of that year, Susan went into St Peter's Hospital, Chertsey, to have our baby. Strangely enough, I was at work and didn't go to the hospital until I had a phone call to say that she'd had the baby. This, by today's standard, that's pretty amazing, because further children I had, I was always there for the whole thing, holding hands and whispering encouragement. But for our first child, I don't really know. It just seemed a bit weird. Rachel Ann Ponting came into this world weighing about the equivalent to 4 bags of sugar. Well, I was a grocer after all. I remember going to the hospital as quickly as I could after that, and when I got there, it took me some time to find out where the maternity bit was and which ward she was in or whatever. And the time I got there, both mother and baby were fast asleep, and I was told, you better come back later. Soon after mother and baby got home, it was realised that Sue needed most of her teeth removing, so she was back in hospital again. I moved back with mum at Parkside, who looked after the baby whilst I went to work. When Sue got home, she had virtually no teeth left at all, which really did mean that her bark was worse than her bite. In the spring of 1972, we had to leave our accommodation at Grange Road in Newhall. I managed to purchase a 42-foot mobile home and had it placed on a site at Mitchett in Surrey. However, with travel to and from work being quite difficult, I kept our names on the council housing list. Eventually, about 12 months later, we were offered a brand new council house at 63 Goldsworthy Road, Chertsey. By the way, how much was your mobile home, I hear you say? Well, it was £1,700. You'll probably struggle to get a shed for that now. By 1975, we had done a council swap. We had swapped our brand new lovely home in Chertsey for a rather dull maisonette in Addleston. The reason for the house swap was because Sue, my partner, had managed to fall out with both sets of neighbours, which meant living there had become untenable. However, the move to Addleston did mean that it was easier for me to get to work. I had a direct bus service, which was a great help. Moving on to the summer of 1976, I think most people know that it was extremely hot. My one memory of that year was that track, Young Hearts Run Free by Candy Staton.
My
I've always been a bit of a practical joker at work. I remember sometime in the mid-70s, there was a promotional offer on crisp big bags, and they came in huge boxes. So what I did was I ordered about 200, massive amount, virtually a lorry load, and stacked them in a huge block in the warehouse. They were on special offer, so were expected to sell quickly. What I did do, however, was every time I emptied a box, I took it back upstairs, folded the lid, and then put it back as though it was still in the pile of ones to be sold. So at the end of the 2-week promotion, the manager was virtually distraught. He couldn't understand why we virtually sold none. I really did enjoy sort of just walking through the whole lot and having a laugh and saying, yeah, only kidding, Gov. We sold them all.
Do pack it in, Michael.
Riders on the storm, riders on the storm. Into this house we're born, into this world we're thrown. Like a dog without a bone, and hacked we're out on loan. Riders on the storm, there's a killer on the road.
Today we get such vivid coverage of all the wars that are going on. Ukraine and Russia, Gaza, all these mass killings and things. It's terrible. But back then we didn't seem to have the coverage, at least not in the UK. Maybe it was on the news, but I was not a great animal for sitting watching the news as I am now. It's such a pity that we weren't better informed.
"1977 was a seminal point in my life's journey. In August of that year there were 2 tragedies. The death of Elvis Presley at only 42 years of age, and my marriage to Susan Janet Rhodes.
A couple gazes at the wedding rings, their own display.
She smiles and nods her head as he says, honey, that's for you. It's not much, but it's the best that I can do.
Golden ring, with one tiny little stone waiting there for someone to take it home by itself. It's just a cold metallic thing. Only love can make a golden wedding ring. In a little wedding chapel later on that afternoon, an old upright piano plays that old familiar tune.
Tears roll down her cheeks and happy thoughts run through her head as he whispers low, with this ring I thee wed.
Golden ring, with one tiny little stone, shining ring. Now at last it's found a home by itself. It's just a cold metallic thing. Only love can make a golden wedding ring. in a small two-room apartment as they fight their final round. He says you won't admit it, but I know you're leaving town.
She says one thing's for certain, I don't love you anymore, and throws down the ring as she walks out the door. Golden ring, with one tiny little stone cast aside like the
We're caught in a trap, I can't walk on, because I love you too much, babe. Why can't you see what you're doing to me when you don't believe a word I say? We can't go on together with suspicious minds, and we can't build our on suspicious minds. So if an old friend I know, somebody say hello, would I still see suspicion in your eyes?
Just a gentle reminder that I give you for every decade. You might think that when you listen to my narrations that I could be making love to my beautiful wife. This is not the case. It really is that I am waiting for a new heart valve, and the sooner the better. "1979, 14th of July, St. Valentine's Day delivery. Along with my trouble and strife, I had endured the push and shove of giving birth. End result, arrival of my son David. I had contacted Capital Radio and DJ Dave Cash played a track called Wonderful Baby by Don McLean. I wonder if in the future babies will ever be delivered by Amazon.
I'm glad I'm not you at the beginning, or is it the end? It goes in and comes out and starts over again. Oh, you're a wonderful baby living on love. The Sandman says maybe he'll take you above.
1979. Here I am setting up my warehouse, ready for the opening of our new store at 1 Silbury Arcade, Central Milton Keynes. It wouldn't be long, however, before I ended up in the doghouse. '70s flashback. I was walking along Station Road, Addleston one day with Sue and daughter Rachel, and she saw a policeman. In a very loud voice she said to her mother, "Mum, Dad always says all coppers are bastards." I strode ahead and pretended not to hear. 1970s cuisine. My wife Sue loved to experiment with food, so at least once a week she would experiment with a new take on pork belly slices. I had my quadruple heart bypass in 2011.
Your dad would have been very proud of you, Michael. I mean, of course, eating all that pork.
70s Christmas. What to get your 5-year-old daughter for Christmas? To me it was blatantly obvious that my little girl would love a Lego building set. I really wanted to spoil her, so went the extra mile by adding Lego rail track and a locomotive. All this topped off with a toy garage with a working car lift. Of course, I had to show her how it all worked. That's a thoughtful dad for you. 1970s flashback. Goods delivered to our store came straight off the lorry and travelled by a conveyor belt to the warehouse upstairs. When boxes got stuck, we would go up and release them and then stay on the conveyor as it completed its journey to the stockroom. One day, health and safety boys turned up. The store had to close immediately so that asbestos could be removed. 3 weeks later, we reopened and were in awe of a brand new fire escape that had been installed close to the entrance. A nice wooden structure painted with lovely white gloss, in itself highly flammable. God bless the 70s. "1970s money go round. He worked hard for his money. In October 1970, commencing with a company, I earned $1,040 per year. By 1973, that had gone up to $1,560. In November 1975, I was up again to $2,860. And in August 1979, topped out at $5,300. At retirement age, in October 2010, after 10 years of monogamous living, I and my wife Sue and children Rachel and David had moved to central Milton Keynes. To be precise, 63 Mullen Avenue, Downs Barn, Milton Keynes. Reason why? Take up a new position as warehouse manager in a brand new Bishop store right in the centre of a brand new city. Flashback 1973. I was on my way home to Mitchett and I popped into a small shop to get a couple of packets of biscuits. Looking at them on the shelf, I found that quite a few were actually out of code. So I grabbed a couple of them and took them up to the counter and said to the guy, "Look, these are out of code, mate." I said, "I'll be honest with you, I am a trading standards officer, but I am off duty, so I don't propose to take any official action." I said, "But please make sure that in future you do, keep checking your stock and keeping the dates right." He was extremely apologetic and said, as I was a customer, would I take a couple of packets free of charge, and he would ensure that there were no problems in the future. I don't know how I got away with all this sort of stuff, but well, bit of fun. Flashback to the early 70s. In all the shops I've worked in during my 52-year career, we've always had celebrities that have come in. So for Bishops in West Byfleet, Surrey, there was John Alderton, who had a lead role in the TV comedy series Please Sir. His wife, Pauline Collins, she had a lead role in the TV drama series called Upstairs and Downstairs. We had Rick Parfitt from the Status Quo rock group. And we had another guy who was actually a Mother's Pride delivery driver, Mother's Pride bread, that is. And he was in a band called The First Class, who had a hit with a track called Beach Baby. So as soon as they had that, he didn't deliver bread to us anymore. I think it's fair to say that if you happen to be looking at this in 50 years' time, i.e. 2070 or something like that, you may need to go to Wikipedia, if it's still about, and check out who the hell these people were. Sitting here late at night and thinking about the 1970s, and it struck me that during that whole decade, I really only ever saw my brother once. And that was when he came to my wedding in August of 1977. That's the only time I saw my brother. And all through our story, we think about not being a family because we're apart for one reason or another. And really, that's something that just stays with you. And every now and again, you'll sit bolt upright and say and think how much you've missed, what you could have had. And now John and I are as close as we've ever been since we were young children. And it seems like we're making up for time lost. After living going through the excitement of the 1960s, I found the 1970s somewhat dull and predictable. As the decade drew to a close, I was not to know what was coming in the 1980s. Basically, a reenactment of the 60s. Naughty Boy was back. My brother John and I were having a conversation one day, and we talked about when we are no longer around, what happens to all the photographs and the written documents and bits and pieces we have. Yes, they may go down to the family, but quite often people don't know what these things mean and they get mislaid and, be quite honest, sometimes just discarded and thrown away. So we were thinking, how can we leave a legacy where people way into the future who suddenly get the bug that they want to know who their ancestors were, how they can find out easily. Obviously the first one was ancestry.uk. We have our family tree on there. There are hundreds of people in it. It's a public tree, so if you become a member of ancestry.com, you'll have access to loads and loads of information about the Pontings and the Godfreys, etc. The other thing is YouTube, and making these sort of stories of our lives and putting them on YouTube. As far as we can tell, they will be there for a long time, as long as YouTube is going. And again, it becomes a great source of information for anybody in the future that would like to know about what we did, how we did it, and why we did it. So, have a look, could be good.
Don't forget, folks, in the living years, ask your questions when you can. Speak to us. We're always available, I hope.
Oh, it had to refocus. What's it say? That's the only trouble using the viewfinder to walk through is a bit it's a wee bit tricky. Yeah, but then I don't have the other viewfinder to look through.
Yeah, but you don't need to look at the viewfinder.
It's not bad actually.
You find a steady point. It's a wide angle, so you're going to get a lot in. As long as it's not like that.